Is owning the home you live in an asset or a liability? An argument can be made for both sides. And depending upon who you speak with, there are some people that are in the camp that owning your own home is very much an asset. And then there are some people that believe it is very much a liability. A lot of the people that believe that owning your own home is a liability tend to tag their beliefs to the price tag associated with owning a home. Owning a home can be very expensive. It can cost money, obviously, in closing costs, down payment, um, taxes, and everything to own a home, as well as the insurance that you're going to have to pay over the life of having that home as well, and all of the interest that you're going to pay on that mortgage. So on that end, a lot of the people that are very much in support of home ownership being a liability tag their beliefs to the cost of home ownership and the cost of a home loan. I tend to lean more towards the side of owning your home being an asset. And the reason is because I look at home ownership outside of just the financial cost associated with home ownership. I like to I like to make the correlation of owning a home, and whether or not it's a good or a bad thing, to is it a good or a bad thing to have a child? That child, when would you even make that decision? Is the child going to be, is it going to be determined that it was a good idea to have a child when that child is, grown, and it's been determined whether or not they're a success in life? And who knows how long that could take. For some children, it happens earlier. For some, it happens later. For some, it happens never. I mean, is it determined based on the course or the path that that child chooses in life? If that child ends up choosing a course that ends up hurting and harming other people, does that determine whether or not it was a good idea to have a child? Or if that child ends up discovering the cure to some disease that was ending people's lives, does that determine whether or not it was a good idea to have a child? I mean, if you look at having a child strictly from a monetary standpoint or a financial standpoint, then it's a horrible idea for anybody to have a child, because you are going to put way more money into your children than what you will ever get back from them. You are going to spend money in taking care of them, whether it be through food, clothing, schooling, extracurricular activities, college, whatever it may be. You're going to put way more money into your children than what you're going to receive from them. So if you're looking at this strictly from a financial aspect, it's a horrible idea to have kids. But why do people have kids and continue to have kids knowing that it's going to cost money? One of the reasons is because there is a emotional attachment that you have to a child. There is a relationship there that you can't get in any other place on earth between a father and their children, or a mother and her children. And it's something that you can't correlate to a price tag. You can't say, oh, it's worth it as long as this child doesn't cost any more than $20,000. No, it very well could be worth it if that child costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars, which in some cases that child may cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I look at home ownership in a similar sense. The only value that a home has, in my opinion, is not just the financial value of the appreciation over time and everything, but there is a sense of ownership that you get when you have a home. There is an emotional attachment that you have to owning a home. There are memories that are created in a home that you own, especially if it's a home that you own and that home is the same home that you raise your children in, the same home that you kind of grow roots in and become a part of a community in. There are a lot of other aspects that come into play with home ownership beyond just attaching a financial number to it. And so there are a lot of people that say, oh, owning a home is a bad thing or it's a liability because you're going to spend way more money in that home than what it's worth. You're going to spend money on maintenance and repair. You're going to spend money on, like I said, the principal and interest, taxes, insurance. You might pay for that home 2 or 3 times over if you only make the minimum mortgage payments, because the way the amortization schedules are written, you end up paying for most homes twice or 2.5 times more by the time that 30-year period is up. So also there are ways that you can also get that home paid off a lot sooner than that, but we'll save that for another talk. In any case, there are a lot of ways that you can justify a home being a liability strictly based on the financial aspect of it. However, again, I'm not only looking at a financial aspect when we're talking about home ownership. Just like when me and my wife decided to have children, we weren't just looking at our pocketbook or at our bank account and saying, you know what? It's not worth it to have kids. They're going to cost way more money than what we have currently. We're not going to get any of that money back. And they're just not a great investment. And some people say, oh, well, it's different because, people say that houses are investments, but the house you live in is not an investment. I can also make the argument where the house you live in is an investment, because in the same way that I can make an argument that your child, I have invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of attention, a lot of resources in my children. None of those investments are going to pay off for me financially. However, I still consider it an investment in what I have put into my children in hopes that they will be able to go on and do better with their lives, make something better out of their lives. So when I purchase a home, the home I live in, I'm not just thinking about me when I consider it an investment. I live in this home. Yes, it costs me money to live in this home. However, I know that at some point the home I live in can be paid off. And when that home is paid off, and I also will purchase other properties I intend to pay off, how much better would it be for my children when they get 20 plus years old, because my kids are young right now, but when they get of an age where they want to go off and purchase a home, how much better of a position are they going to be in for me to be able to hand them a home that's paid off and say, hey, this is yours. You can live in it if you want to. You can rent it out and use the rent money to pay for you to live somewhere else if you want to do that. You can use the rent money to invest it in somewhere. But basically, this is an asset for you that you can use to go and do something else with. An asset that they will not have if I don't make the investment now. Me living in the house now, me taking care of the maintenance and the taxes and the insurance, the principal, the interest, all of that stuff that I consider an investment. It's not just me investing in the memories I'm creating now, the emotional attachment I have to it, also the emotional attachment that my children have to it, because this is their home. This is the place where they're growing up, where they're creating a connection with the community, where they've invited friends over and, had fun playing games and everything. And we've had family over. How do you quantify that in dollars? So again, when I hear a lot of people that say, "Oh, owning a home is a liability," the big argument that I hear, really the only argument that I hear in support of it being a liability, is the financial aspect of owning a home. It's it costs so much more to own a home, and you could have put all of that extra money, invested it somewhere else that would have yielded you a bigger return than what that house is going to appreciate, and you would have made a whole lot more money. But it's not all about money. I don't make every decision in my life based on a return on investment. ROI does not dictate every decision that I make. I own a home because I want to own a home. I want to have a place that's mine, that my kids can grow up in, that will eventually be paid off, and I can hand it to my children. It'll be worth way more than what it was worth when I bought it. And they can now have that asset, because I do consider that an asset, to where they can now pass it along to their children. They can live in it. They could do whatever. If they wanted to sell it, they could sell it, but now they're going to take however many hundreds of thousands of dollars it'll be worth at that time. They could take that money, and if I've trained them up in the right way and they stick to good principles of managing and utilizing money, they could take that money that they gain from selling it and they can go and purchase some other house, or they can go and make another investment. They can go do something else with it that's beneficial for them or fruitful for them. However, I still consider it an asset because it's something of value that, as long as I'm able to service the debt on it, properly maintain and upkeep it, then it's an asset. Whether it's an asset that I tap into the equity and utilize to help further increase whatever other assets I want to acquire, or whether it's an asset that I use to start building generational wealth and I pass it along to my children, and then my children use that to start building generational wealth, and maybe they acquire other real estate and they pass along those assets to their children, and then they pass along those assets to their children. Yes, I could easily just, you know what, I'm gonna sell my house, I'm gonna take that money, I'm gonna go rent, but with the money that I'll save in interest, I'm gonna take that money and I'm gonna invest it, and then I'll make a whole lot more money, and then I can buy a whole lot more. Yes, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. That's not the route that I'm choosing to take. And I also don't subscribe to the home that you own and live in is a liability, because I believe that you can't just simply look at it from a financial aspect. Just like having a child, you can't just simply look at having a child and the decision on whether or not it's a good idea based on a financial aspect. You can't even look at it in terms of a how will this child turn out aspect. You can't look at, because we don't know a lot of that stuff. There are so many different facets to consider. I mean, what is the value that this child provides to you and the joy that they bring to your life? Because I can definitely say there's a lot of energy and attention and time that it takes to have children and to raise children. However, there is also a joy that me and my wife get from raising our children and training them up in the way that they should go, so that when they're older, they don't depart from it. There is a piece that comes with seeing your children become productive members of society and living in their God-given purpose, doing the things that God created them to do, and just walking in that, living in that, fulfilling those things. Those are the things that I think you just can't quantify with dollars. So when it comes to having a child, it's like, I can't say, oh, you know what? It's a bad idea to have a child because a money aspect. But a lot of the proponents of homes that you live in being a liability, it's all a financial thing. But I don't make every decision, like I said, based on finances. So would like, you know, what is your take on this? I would like to get your take too, because again, we can talk a lot around about, is it an asset? Is it a liability? I lean more towards the asset crew because, like I said, I can't just look at it from a financial aspect, because my home is more than just a dollar figure to me. When I come home, there's a sense of peace that I have that I did not get the same level of it when I was renting, because I knew I was living somewhere that I didn't own. I had to pay someone else to live in that place for the right to use their property. So when I was renting, it's a different feeling that I get, that is hard, at least right now, for me to be able to put into words. But it's not the same as when you own somewhere and you're living in it and you're sitting on your land or on your property, maybe on your deck or on your screen porch, or even just outside standing in your driveway. Whatever it is different than, at least for me, being in a rented place. Still a home that I have the ability to use because I pay rent there. However, also knowing that every month I owe someone a rent payment. Every month I owe someone something. Yes, I pay a mortgage, but I also know that the name on the deed to the house is mine, not the mortgage company's. They have a lien on the house. As long as I keep paying the mortgage, I can stay there. But eventually that mortgage is paid off and I don't owe anyone a deed for the house. I just pay the taxes on the house and the insurance. But again, that's just something that I wanted to bring to light in terms of what my viewpoint is on why I believe homes are an asset, and why I think it's beneficial for you to look at this outside of just the financial benefit of what you may be getting from a house. Oh, it's costing you more money, so it's a liability. but money's not the only reason that you own a home. So consider that when you're thinking about whether or not home ownership is an asset, a liability, and whether or not you think it's something for you as well. So that's what I have for you. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Be blessed.